G'day. Just wanted to make a video outlining my experience with the Nether chest shrug. First off, what is it? It is a upper inner chest isolation movement that is closely related to, say, a chest fly with cables or dumbbells or bands or whatever, except that you're not limited by the strength of your arms or shoulders, which is very beneficial for your chest for a couple reasons. One, your chest is probably stronger than your arms and your shoulders. And I say that kind of surprisingly because I've never felt my chest when benching or dumbbells or anything. I've just never felt it. I've never been really able to gain that kind of strength curve. Like specifically for benching, I'm all arms. My chest has almost never been that much of a part of it. So, why would you want to do a movement such as this? It definitely looks funny, but that's probably besides the point if you're already trying to be a bodybuilder and just not looking like everyone else anyway. 1. Mind-muscle connection is huge on this one. I've exclusively done chest shrugs for about 3 months, and one thing that I'm noticing as I'm slowly incorporating other chest movements back into my routine is that they're blowing up. Like even doing like a really basic just banded chest fly like this, like I can feel the chest fibers pulling from all the way to the back, all the way to the center, and I can pump my chest up quick. Where like relatively like 3 to 6 months ago, I couldn't even feel my chest. Even if I put a whole workout into it, it wouldn't even be sore. Other muscles were taking over. That's just kind of how things went. And that's, I think, normal for a lot of guys is they don't get a lot of chest development or a lot of mind-muscle connection there. Another thing, the muscle contraction in your upper chest when you're doing it properly and you've actually kind of figured it out within your own body build is something else. Like I know the Nethers talked about being able to contract so hard that you feel like the muscle's going to rip off, which I think is awesome. If you can have such a connection over your muscle that you can flex it harder than it even wants to flex, like imagine the muscle gains that you can do from this, even if you're doing just doing it as you're sitting here. Like you don't even need equipment to do some of these things. Let's relate it to a different body part. Let's use your biceps. Could you imagine if you could have such a strong connection with your bicep that you could just, pump out some air curls and 30 seconds later you could have a fully pumped up muscle? You didn't even use anything and you got it pumped up. Imagine if you put weights to it. Woo! Things you could do. Anyways, chest shrug. Third thing, the potential strength of your chest is huge. So to put some numbers to it, my benching is mid 200s. Nothing to shake a stick at. I haven't been a good bencher, probably because I've never felt my chest before. Could be that. Either way, chest shrugs, after a couple weeks of dabbling and kind of getting myself figured out how I can apply it, I was up to doing 405 for like reps. Like probably 10 to 15 once I got up there, which in comparison to say a bench, like I couldn't even budge 405. But when I isolate my chest, it's crazy. So now that we talked a little bit of how it's helped me, how to, or more about what it is, now let's talk about how to do it. So the number one thing that I had to figure out for myself was the angle of my chest fibers. And I know everyone's different, so this is really where you figure out for yourself how you can apply it to yourself. So for my chest fibers, they kind of go in this direction on both sides. And when you figure out your upper chest fiber angles, that's the angle you're going to want to be shrugging at and pulling your chest into your kind of neck. So if you have more of a horizontal one, you're going to want to be you're going to want to be going more across your body. And if your upper chest fibers are more upwards, you're going to want to do more of a upward shrug. Something to note is your traps will want to take over if you go too heavy too soon. If you don't figure out that mind-muscle connection of how to just purely isolate your upper chest. So once you've got your chest fibers, the angle identified, then you can start moving on to whether you want to do it one-handed or two-handed. When you're starting, definitely go light, lots of volume, because the more volume you do, the more you'll figure out how to use your upper chest. And that's huge. That's like most of the exercise is just even learning how to use it. And once you can use it, you can just destroy it. So, one-handed or two-handed? I'd vote one-handed. Get on there one-handed, whether you've got a kind of flexible handle on the end of a barbell or something, but just something where you can use one arm and just really focus on using that specific muscle in your body. Just really get in there. Or on that side, you can kind of do it either way. So after, a couple months, my favorite way is one-handed, just on the edge of a barbell, just the big 2-inch end on it, and just holding on with like maybe a 45 plate on there. It doesn't have to be heavy, and just, feeling it and repping it out. 20, 30, 40 sets of 20 reps, like really low, easy weight. And to like relate that to kind of more of a normal chest fly, think about doing chest flies with 45s or 50s. I mean, that would be heavy for me. But to do it isolated with 45 pounds on the end of a barbell, that's really a lot easier and a lot, it feels a lot lighter even though it's 45 pounds. Like, you can load the weight up. Huge. And then the last thing of how you'd want to approach it is maybe working into some heavier intensity sets. But I'd say only get into that once you've got like a pretty solid grasp on your angle and how to shrug it in the right direction. You can definitely go against your fibers if you're kind of cutting cross, and it just doesn't feel right. You don't get the same contraction. I find if I'm not trying to flex along the fiber line, my traps take over. Even though it's still a chest movement, just traps want to take over. So I think that's normal in shrugging movements. Most people are used to shrugging with their traps. It's not normal to necessarily shrug with your upper chest. Once you get it figured out, though, gold. Things to take away from this. Improved mind-muscle connection. That was by far the biggest thing for me. I can feel my chest. I can apply that to doing flies or for bench. Anything, really. Like, once you kind of get that figured out, it makes a lot of other things easier that you may have struggled with. 2, chest gains. Not that I have a big chest, but it's substantially nicer and fuller than it was a couple months ago. And that's not a very long period of time to be able to actually see some visual gains on a muscle group. So that's kind of cool. There is some strength carryover. I came back to my bench after a couple months of not even touching it. It was up 15 pounds or so. Not that that's a lot, but for not pressing, there's something to be said there. And lastly, this is a trial and error style of exercise. I had to fight with it for a couple weeks. I was pretty determined to make it work because in my head I could see the potential of it, but I was having a hard time applying it. And after, a couple of weeks of trying to do it with handles or right on the barbell or 2 hands or 1 hand, heavy, light, what's the best way to do it? For me, it really is low weight, stupid amounts of volume. Like 500 reps, 600, 700 reps in a workout. And it feels incredible. It's an incredible contraction. The soreness is a deep soreness. It's not necessarily a surface soreness, which I'm finding with a lot of partial movements where you kind of get your arms out of the mix. You can dig a lot deeper into your muscles than you could just using your arms. So, that's kind of my experience with chest shrugs. Really like them. They take some work, but it's worth the work and the pain, if you know what I mean. Doms. So, that's it. Thanks, guys.